Welcome all in the series of lectures on fundamental theorem of Galois theory. In the last lecture, we talked about character. We also saw that distinct characters are linearly independent, and we used that idea to establish the fact that distinct automorphisms of field K are linearly independent. In this particular lecture, we are going to talk about a very important and interesting theorem that if G is a subgroup of group of automorphisms, then number of elements in G is exactly equal to degree of extension of K over its fixed field. So let's start the theorem. So theorem reads like this. So let G equal to say sigma 1, let me call this as 1 identity automorphism, sigma 2, so on sigma n be subgroup of automorphisms of a field K and F be its fixed field, right? Full stop. Then degree of extension of K over F is equal to number of elements in G, and that is equal to n, right? Let me just show you this diagrammatically. Suppose K is a field given to you. You will find all automorphisms of K, right? So you will find all automorphisms of K. Assume that G is a subgroup of this automorphism of K and F is its fixed field. Okay, definitely elements of K which are fixed by all the elements of G. So definitely we will have this extension here. So point says that number of elements in G is exactly equal to degree of extension of K over fixed field of G. So degree of extension of K over fixed field of G. So this number degree of extension is equal to cardinality of G. So that is the theorem. Okay. So let's now move to the proof. We will prove this theorem step by step. Proof. So I want to prove that n, that is equal to number of elements in G, is exactly equal to degree of extension, right? So firstly, I will assume that suppose n is greater than degree of extension, that is number of elements in G is greater than degree of extension, and let me assume that degree of extension is m. Okay, since degree of extension is m, the number of elements in basis of K over F is exactly m, so let me assume that basis. So let me assume that w1, w2, so on, wm be the basis of K over F. Now we will consider a system, homogeneous system of linear equations. Okay, so let's first of all consider the system of homogeneous linear equations. So you can see here system of homogeneous equations is like this: sigma 1, which is the first element of G. So sigma 1, so first equation will focus on omega 1. Okay, so sigma 1 of omega 1 into x1 plus sigma 2 of omega 1 into x2 plus so on sigma n of omega 1 into xn equal to 0, and so on. We'll consider sigma 1 of omega m. So mth equation will correspond to omega m. So sigma 1 of omega m into x1, sigma 2 of omega m into x2, plus so on sigma n of omega m into xn equal to 0. Now one can easily observe that here number of equations is m and number of unknowns is n. So number of unknowns is more than number of equations. So system of homogeneous linear equation will have a non-trivial solution. Okay, so let me just write that fact here. Since number of equations is less than number of unknowns as per the assumption, because we have already assumed that m is less than n. You can see here we have assumed that m is less than n. So number of equations is less than number of unknowns, comma, so system of, or we may just say that this system, so this system has non-trivial solution. Non-trivial solution. Non-trivial solutions means non-zero solution. So say beta 1, beta 2, so on beta n in k. Okay, now let me choose any elements in f which is a fixed field of g. So let a1, a2, so on am be any m elements of f, m elements of f is a fixed field of g, right? So since f is a fixed field of g, all these elements will be fixed by all the elements of g. So I can write, so this implies sigma I of aj equal to aj for all 1 less equal I less equal n, 1 less equal j less equal m. Okay, so let's write this fact as star. Now what will we do? Now we will multiply first equation by a1 in this system. We'll multiply first equation by a1, second equation by a2, and so on, last equation by am. Okay, but point is that if even if I multiply first equation by a1, sigma 1 of a1 is a1, so I can write sigma 1 of a1 instead of a1 everywhere. Okay, so that will make my job more easy. Here in the second term I will write a1, but instead of a1 I can write sigma 2 of a1, because sigma 2 of a1 is also a1. In the last term I will write a1 and I will replace it by sigma n of a1, because sigma n of a1 is also a1. So in this way we can rewrite the given system. So first of all let me write down what we are going to do. So now multiply first equation by a1, second equation by a2, and so on, mth equation by am. So using star we can find a new system of equations. Okay, and that system of equations is like this. Okay, so instead of a1 I can write sigma 1 of a1, and sigma 1 of a1 into sigma 1 of omega 1, so that is sigma 1 of a1 omega 1. In the second term I will write a1, but I will replace it by sigma 2 of a1, so it will come sigma 2 of a1, sigma 2 of a1 omega 1, and so on. We will do it throughout the system, so we will find this new system, right? Now if we will add all these equations together, then we can simply simplify the system as below. Okay, so we can look here that after adding sigma 1 of all these equations, so beta 1 will be common, sigma 1 of a1 omega 1 plus a2 omega 2, so on am omega m into beta 1 plus sigma 2 of a1 omega 1 plus a2 omega 2 plus am omega m into beta 2, and so on. Sigma n of a1 omega 1 plus a2 omega 2 plus am omega m. And we can see that this term is common everywhere, so I can write it alpha. And since omega 1 omega 2 omega m is basis of k over f, this is simply any element of k, right? So this is alpha, so sigma 1 of alpha into beta 1 plus sigma 2 of alpha into beta 2 plus sigma n of alpha into beta n equal to 0. I can take alpha out from all these expressions, so sigma 1 beta 1 plus sigma 2 beta 2 plus sigma n beta n of alpha equal to 0. But alpha is arbitrary, right? Because it is any random linear combination of omega 1 omega 2 omega m. So since alpha is arbitrary, so this function will be 0. So sigma 1 beta 1 plus sigma 2 beta 2 plus sigma n beta n equal to 0. But interestingly, we can find here that sigma 1 beta 1 plus sigma 2 beta 2 plus sigma n beta n equal to 0. But beta 1 beta 2 beta n not all are 0, right? So since beta 1 beta 2 beta n are not all 0, this clearly indicates that sigma 1 sigma 2 sigma n are linearly dependent, because these all beta 1 beta 2 beta n, all these constants are not 0, so they will be linearly dependent. But in the beginning itself, we have assumed that sigma 1 sigma 2 sigma n are distinct automorphisms of field k, subgroup of automorphisms of field k. So that will be a contradiction, and that contradiction proves that our assumption is wrong. And our assumption was that n is greater than m, so we must have n is less equal m. Okay, so the first fact we can establish here, so this shows that beta 1 beta 2 beta n are not all 0, comma, so sigma 1 sigma 2 so on sigma n are linearly dependent. A contradiction, because distinct automorphisms must be linearly independent. So contradiction, so we must have that n, that is degree of number of elements in group G, must be less equal m. Thus n is less equal m. So this is the first. Now we will establish the another fact. So to establish another fact, now suppose n is less than degree of extension. Now suppose n is less than m. Okay, in the beginning we assumed that, we can just go back, we can check that n is greater than m. That was assumed and we found contradiction. So now we assume that n is less than m. M is nothing but degree of extension of k over f, right? So just look at this fact, n is less than m. Okay, that is equal to degree of extension of k over f. So this means that there are more than n linearly independent elements, because number of elements in basis is more than n. Okay, so there are more than n linearly independent elements of k over f. Okay, so we can assume that, suppose the linear independent elements are alpha 1 alpha 2 so on alpha n plus 1. So clearly this is basis, number of elements in basis of k over f, and that is greater than n. So we have more than n linear independent elements in k over f. So there are more than n linearly independent elements in k over f. So say, let's assume them as alpha 1 alpha 2 so on alpha n comma alpha n plus 1. Now we will assume one more system based on this alpha 1 alpha 2 alpha n plus 1. So let me just take that system here. So this is system I'm talking about. So if we consider system like this, we can simply find that See, sigma 1, sigma 2, sigma n are elements of G. For each sigma 1, sigma 2, sigma n, we'll find equation, and alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha n plus 1. So there will be n plus 1 variables. So first equation will be like this: sigma 1 of alpha 1 into x1 plus sigma 1 of alpha 2 into x2, so on, sigma 1 of alpha n plus 1 into xn plus 1 equal to 0, and so on. Here also number of equations is n, right? And number of unknowns is n plus 1. So again number of equations is less than number of unknowns. So this system will also have non-trivial solution. So I can here write here clearly: this system has non-trivial solution. Say beta 1, beta 2, so on, beta n, and beta n plus 1. So this is non-trivial solution, that means not all are 0. Further, there is one more fact, that these all beta 1, beta 2, dot 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 beta n plus 1 cannot be in fixed field. All of these elements cannot be in the fixed field. For example, suppose all of these elements are in fixed field. Okay, beta 1, beta 2, beta n plus 1. Just focus on the first equation itself. So what will happen to the first equation? Suppose all these elements are in F. Okay, so and assume that sigma 1 is identity map. We can take that sigma 1 is 1, that is identity map. So what will happen? Sigma 1 of alpha 1, instead of beta 1 I will x1 I will write beta 1, then sigma 1 of alpha 2, then I will write beta 2 here, plus plus plus, so on. Sigma 1 of alpha n plus 1 will be as it is. I will write beta n plus 1 instead of xn plus 1, right? And that is equal to 0. Now what will happen? Sigma 1 equal to identity, so all of these elements are fixed, right? So sigma 1 of alpha 1 is alpha 1, right? Sigma 2 of 1 of alpha 2 is alpha 2, and so on. So this implies alpha 1 beta 1 plus alpha 2 beta 2 plus plus plus, so on, alpha n plus 1 beta n plus 1 equal to 0, right? But if this is so, then beta 1, beta 2, beta n plus 1 not all 0. Okay, so as we already said, it is non-trivial solution. So beta 1, beta 2, so on, beta n plus 1 are not all 0. Okay, but linear combination is 0. So that means alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha n plus 1 are linearly dependent. So this implies alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha n plus 1 are linearly dependent, which is not possible because we have already said that there are more than n linearly independents, and these all are assumed to be linearly independent, and now we find that they are linearly dependent. So that is the reason all these elements cannot be in F. So thus this happens, let me write here, if beta 1, beta 2, so on, beta n plus 1 are all in F, then this happens. Okay, so not all beta 1, beta 2, so on, beta n plus 1 are in F. So not all of them are in F. Okay, so now what we will do, we will find a solution in which there are minimal non-zero elements. Means we know that beta 1, beta 2, beta n plus 1 is non-trivial solution, so not all are 0. Okay, but we will find solutions such that less number of elements will be non-zero. Okay, so suppose r elements, r is the minimal number of non-zero elements in solution. So choose solution, choose solution, beta 1, beta 2, so on, beta n with minimal non-zero beta i's. Okay, say r is the minimal number of non-zero beta i's. Non-zero beta i's. Okay, so let after renumbering we can assume that let beta 1, beta 2, so on, beta r non-zero. Okay, but we can divide, since beta r is non-zero, we can divide whole equation by beta r. So we can assume that beta r equal to 1. After dividing beta r by beta r, we can get it by 1. So we may assume that beta r equal to 1. Okay, so we will have this string of non-zero beta is like this: beta r minus 1 lastly 1. Okay, now we know that not all these elements are in f, all of these are not in f. Okay, so further, not all beta i's are in f. So let beta 1 does not belongs to f. So let's assume that beta 1 is element which does not belongs to f. Okay, so what we will do now, we will reduce our system because this system has n plus 1 unknowns. Okay, but since we have assumed that only beta 1, beta 2, beta r are non-zero, rest of the elements are 0. So after putting x1 equal to beta 1, x2 equal to beta 2 and so on, we will reduce each and every equation only up to beta r minus 1 and 1 beta r. Okay, so let me reduce that equations now. So after reduction, we can find that a new set of equations will look like this. Okay, so let me just copy this system of equations. Let's paste it here in our notebook at this place. Okay, and let's have a discussion. So we can simply find that first equation has reduced now. So it is only sigma 1 of alpha 1 into beta 1, sigma 1 of alpha r minus 1, beta r minus 1, and sigma 1 of alpha r, because beta r equal to 1, it is assumed. So like this systems, this equations can be reduced to a new system, and we can just shorten all this system into a single equation, that is sigma I, where I runs from 1 to n. So sigma I of alpha 1 into beta 1 plus sigma I of alpha 2 into beta 2, and so on, sigma I of alpha r minus 1 into beta r minus 1 plus sigma I of alpha r equal to 0, where I runs from 1 to n. So likewise, we can shorten this system of equations into a single equation. Okay, now we know that beta 1 does not belongs to f. Okay, and beta 1 does not belongs to f, that means f is a fixed field. Basically, f is a fixed field of G, and beta 1 does not belongs to fixed field. That means beta 1 is not fixed by all the elements of G. So there exists some element in G which does not fixes beta 1. Okay, so let me just write that fact here. So since beta 1 does not belongs to f, there exists sigma k naught belongs to G, such that sigma k naught of beta 1 is not equal to beta 1. Now we will use this sigma k naught. What I will do, I will apply this sigma k naught to hold this system. So apply sigma k naught to the previous system. Then, so after applying sigma k naught, we can simply find a new system. Let me just write this system here itself. So that is a sigma k naught of sigma I of alpha 1 into sigma k naught of beta 1 plus so on sigma k naught of sigma I of alpha r minus 1 into sigma k naught of beta r minus 1 plus sigma k naught of sigma I of alpha r equal to 0. Right, so this is my new system. But keep in mind that sigma k naught is an element of G. So even if you multiply sigma k naught to sigma I, okay, then also all these elements are going to be again elements of G, because sigma G is a group. So sigma k naught into sigma 1, sigma k naught into sigma 2, so on, sigma k naught into sigma n, say. Okay, so this is going to be same as sigma 1, sigma 2, so on, sigma n in some order. So because this is group, so it is closed under the operation, right? So that's why all these elements will be again elements of G. So what can I write? I can just rewrite that system as then instead of sigma k naught sigma I I can write some another symbol, say sigma j. So sigma j of alpha 1, okay, into sigma k naught of beta 1 plus so on sigma j of say alpha r minus 1, sigma k naught of beta r minus 1 plus sigma j of alpha r equal to 0. Now what I will do, I will subtract the second. Let me just write the equation numbers here. So we had abbreviated this system, so I will write this as 1, okay, and then I will write this system as 2. And what I will do, I will just do one thing. We will subtract this system 2 from 1, okay. So after that subtraction, what will happen actually? So you can just look at these two systems, sigma I of alpha r and sigma j of alpha. You can write j as alpha I because we can take the index same. So if we take I, we can just replace this j by I, but I'm not going to do it right now. We can just assume that j is equal to I because that is just a index, so it can be any number, right? So I have written I here, so it will be I here itself as well. So sigma I of alpha, sigma I of alpha 1 will get cancelled, okay. Sigma I of alpha 1, here it is sigma I of alpha 1, so it will common, and beta 1 minus sigma k naught of beta 1, or sigma k naught beta 1 minus beta 1, but let's subtract 1 minus 2, okay. So what will be the new subtract 1, or say subtract 2 from 1. So then we will have new system, that is sigma I of alpha 1 will be common, and in bracket beta 1 minus sigma k naught of beta 1. Then plus 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 will continue like this. Last term will get cancel. Sigma I of alpha r minus 1 will be common. Then beta r minus 1 minus sigma k naught of beta r minus 1, and this is equal to 0, right? But now keep in mind that again we have arrived to a contradiction. Why it is contradiction? It is contradiction because basically it is solution of system, because this non-trivial solution, because beta 1 is not equal to sigma k naught of beta 1. We have already read that fact here. So sigma k naught beta 1 is not equal to beta 1, so this particular term, this first term, is not going to be 0, right? This is not going to be 0. This is not going to be 0. And you can write I equal to 1, you will get first equation. You can write I equal to 2, you will get second equation. Likewise, you can write I equal to n, you will get nth equation. And this means this is a solution of that system, and non-trivial solution because the first coordinate is not 0, right? But this particular solution has less number of non-zero elements, because beta 1, this corresponds to beta 1, this corresponds to r minus 1. So this particular solution will have less number of non-zero elements than that of r, so which is a contradiction, right? So that's why our assumption is again wrong. So what we had assumed, assumption was n is less than m, so basically n is greater equal m. So let me write it here. This provides a non-trivial solution to the system. Let's for understanding, write 1 with less than r non-zero elements. Okay, which is a contradiction. So our assumption is again wrong. Assumption was n is less than m, so we must have n greater equal m. So thus n greater equal m. So this will be another expression. Okay, let's write it as, say, double star. So you can combine this double star with, say, single star here, and we can find that m equal to n. So from star and double star, m equal to n. What is m? M is nothing but degree of extension of k over f, and n is coordinate of g. So that's the proof. So I hope that you must understood the proof of this theorem, that number of elements in subgroup of automorphism group is exactly equal to degree of extension of a field over the fixed field of that subgroup. Okay, so with this I stop here in this lecture.